He can do this, but can he do it face to face? I'm Scott Ott, and this is Bill Whittle Now. And Bill, I'm going to get a little personal with you on this episode of Bill Whittle Now. Normally we talk about broad themes and principles and breaking news and how the principles apply to the breaking news. But it's one thing to sit in front of a camera and talk to a relatively friendly adversary in one Scott Ott. It's quite another thing to go face to face with somebody who actually disagrees with you on political ideas. And I just want to ask you, first of all, in general, what happens to you when you are face to face with somebody who suddenly raises some sort of political issue that you'd probably rather not talk about, but clearly they are opposed to your views? How do you handle that kind of a personal ambush on a face-to-face situation?
I don't get personally ambushed. I get a shocking, to me anyway, surprising number of people coming up to me in the strangest places, but often, obviously, airports or something, asking me if I'm Bill Whittle and telling me how much they appreciate the work. I've had a couple of dirty looks before, but I've never had anybody actually come up and directly challenge me when I wasn't at an event. Now, I have been at events, and I've been at events in fairly liberal high schools, and then very liberal colleges, and then a couple of extremely liberal colleges. And those I tailor my response to as needed.
So that's the as needed is the key part of this question, because it occurs to me that a lot of people in our audience watch what you do here, and they think, wow, wouldn't it be great if I was so glib and eloquent and I could, at the spur of the moment, drop these points and these principles in a way that convince people. But it's a different medium. And when you're looking somebody in the eye, what is your initial, do you tend to just dive right in and basically say, here's why you're wrong?
No, I have. In fact, I do the opposite of that. Generally speaking, I'll just go back to the most unpleasant experience that I had, which was at
perfect.
Which was at I want to say. Anyway, it was in Natchitoches University out there. I've forgotten what Steve Austin.
Stephen F. Austin.
Yeah,
I
guess so. So this was one where I had a person who had basically organized a Facebook boycott, and I started speaking, and within 10, 20 seconds of opening my mouth, this guy in the front row just got up and started screaming and yelling and all the rest of this. And I found, to my utter amazement, because I am a guy who generally likes to fight back. It took me 3 or 4 years to not respond to negative comments in the blog post. And to my astonishment, it's almost like I heard a choir of angels, I just became, for me, supernaturally calm. I said, no, go right ahead.
Let him run with the line, so to speak.
I walked on the moon. But I did. I let him run. And I think I let him run because he was making kind of an idiot out of himself. And so what I do when I'm running into people who are openly hostile is I try to just get down to foundational things. And I just say, look, do you agree that it's better to be working or not working? And most people will say better to be working. Okay, so we agree on that. If they say better to be not working, I will ask them, have you ever been in a situation where you've been working for a period of time followed by a period of time when you haven't been working? And, but I haven't had that answer yet.
Yeah.
And what I basically try to do is to say, listen, what you want and what I want are very similar, if not identical. We just have very different ways of going at it. And so let's first off start out by figuring out what it is that we want. I want people to be happy. That's basically it. My mission in life is to make people as happy as I possibly can. And for me, who's read a lot of history and some biology as well, it seems to me that there is that you can never get to happiness or anything close to perfect happiness, but you can come up with a set of rules that, as a general matter, make for a pretty happy place compared to other places. And then I'll start talking about things like rights and so on. But I try to find a way to get them to see that this is not a political discussion. This is a moral discussion, philosophical discussion. I think I remember once when I was at Cal Poly, and some guy was like extremely hostile to me because I said the reason that the dean of the department, let's just, because Cal Poly is obviously a technical school, reason that the dean of the department of engineering at Cal Poly gets paid more than a junior professor of engineering is because he not only because he can do the job of the junior professor, but the junior professor can't do his job. There's an awful lot of political stuff. There's an awful lot of administrative stuff. So he gets paid more because he can do the other person's job, but one person can't do the other. And then he said, and then he said to me, how dare you say that that an engineering professor, doesn't have the social skills to be an administrator? And I said, have you ever met one? Engineering students, you know what they use for birth control, right? Their personalities. And the kid broke up laughing. And he didn't want to. But once you do that, you look, Scotty, I think the single most important thing to do with a hostile audience is to immediately make it clear that you're not some ideologue who's stuck in his trench, and now it's just going to be a question of who can lob the most shells at each other.
I see three things that you've already done.
Sure. Okay.
Number one is you, rather than amp up, you calm down. Number two is that you come alongside of the person and look for common ground. Mm-hmm. And then the third one, which I just thought of, escapes me. Oh, humor. So you inject some humor into that, but in a way that is, if not self-deprecating, at least not hostile, sarcastic humor.
No, self-deprecating, absolutely. Mark Twain said that nothing against the assault of humor, nothing can stand, and he's absolutely right. The big part of it is just showing these people. Honestly, I remember very clearly after the first or second college event I did. I remember very clearly thinking I thought I was supposed to. It was in Toronto. It was in not Toronto, Ottawa. I got interviewed before I was going to do this event at a university there, and it was obviously an extremely left-wing journalist with a photographer, and we ended up talking for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. And she said, "You seem actually like a really pretty nice guy." I said, "Most of the time I am." And that's when I realized that I thought I was there to explain the philosophy to people, but my primary mission is to show people that we're actual human beings. And the way you can do that is to take a statement. I just love this statement. I don't mean to be patting myself on the back about it, but I love it. I think it's perfect. I will talk to them and I'll say, listen, if healthcare were free, I'd be in favor of free healthcare. What kind of a jerk would I have to be? Say no free healthcare for you. I don't like the way you look. I don't like the color of your skin. Nah, don't like it. No free healthcare for you. If healthcare were free, I'd be a liberal on healthcare. But it's not free. So we have to figure out how to pay for it. So now I'm a conservative again. And when you say something like that, you make it clear that their assumptions about you really are kind of ridiculous. Of course I'd be in favor of free healthcare. Who wouldn't? Really, what person with any kind of a living soul would say, no free health care for you? But it's not free. And this is when you can actually see little lights going on in people's eyes.
Okay, so now I get four things. Calm down, come alongside by finding areas of agreement, use a little humor, and try to state things in ways that are not just talking points that they've already heard before. All of that comes into play, and let me just ask you to close here on the most difficult situation. You're dealing with a relative, a loved one, somebody who's close to you or close to members of your family, and there's a lot at risk here. There's a lot of emotional and relational bonds that are at risk here. How do you handle that situation?
Well, I'm sorry to say I've had to deal with that. I have a fairly large extended family back in Pennsylvania where my dad and my aunts and uncles are from. And I used to very much enjoy going to Thanksgiving over there. And the cousins who took over Thanksgiving, because it used to be my aunt's kind of domain, are very left-wing, and I knew it going into it. And so I would go to these events, and I wouldn't say a word. I got my guns holstered, and I am not here to talk politics. No, yeah, well, and literally. They kept the ankle one loose just in case, and I got a knife in the belt. But I basically, and they would what I found to my extreme sadness was they'd keep poking. They would keep poking, and after about 2 or 3 years of this, the poking got so intense and so nasty that I remember having this happened to be the night that the I'm sorry, what was the name of the guy, the young black man who was killed in a fight with it was
not Michael Brown.
No, before that. Oh my God! I've got his face right in my. Everybody knows him. Anyway, it was the night that verdict came back, right? And they were cursing and yelling and screaming and all this other stuff, and again giving me more pokes. And I remember having the absolute clarity of saying to myself, "You have 3 options now. You can either take it, which I'm not inclined to do, or you can fight back, which I am inclined to do, and not to put too fine a point on it, I'm a professional. This is what I do for a living. I could simply go in there and lay waste to these people, but I didn't want to do that either. Or my third choice is I just don't come back, and that's the one I picked. I haven't been there in 7-8 years."
Now, would you recommend that as a practice to others, or do you look at that with a kind of sense of personal grief and say, gee, I wish I could have found another way to deal with that?
I wish they could have found another way to deal with it. Because this isn't like a he said, she said, they're always wrong. I came to Thanksgiving free of politics, even though I'm a professional political commentator. I came to those things with clear differences of opinions of the people who were hosting me, knowing that those differences of opinion existed. And not only was I not bringing them up, I was doing everything in my power to not respond to the basic, aggravations and aggressions, and just like it's a car trip, just kept getting poked. And after several years of this, and after getting more and more personal, I just looked at those 3 options and decided, well, okay, so this is the one I will do. And it didn't just hurt my feelings; it broke my heart, because a lot of the people doing the poking had been young children, and I had, I didn't have much money. They had quite a bit of money, and I was buying stuff for them, and I just considered them like my foster kids, and telling them stories and stuff. So to go to a Thanksgiving dinner and see somebody who you'd spent that much kind of time with come back from college convinced that the person who they thought was a really, really cool guy is now a Nazi because some socialist professor has told them so. For them to abandon a lifetime, really genuinely an entire lifetime of knowing me in favor of what they are told that I am, just broke my heart.
Well, to paraphrase 2 famous movies, politics is not just business, it's personal. And you can see the impact personally on Bill Whittle, even though he's a professional commentator. We know that the viewers and the members at BillWhittle.com have felt this kind of pain in their own lives. And I just thought we'd take a little time to be a little vulnerable, for want of a better term, and just let you know that you're not alone. And that just because somebody's a professional commentator, or for that matter, a professional psychiatrist, doesn't mean that they've solved all the problems of their lives.
I'd like to add one thing here.
Yes.
And this is not a plug. It's a genuine revelation that was completely unexpected for me. It's an old saw, and it's true. You get to pick your friends. You don't get to pick your family, but you get to pick your friends. And what Scott has done, ladies and gentlemen, with the BillWhittle.com website, in terms of connecting people, setting it up so they can have their own blog posts, having everybody the ability to express their opinion. What he's done is turned that website into something that should have been crystal clear for me from the beginning, but wasn't. And that is, he's turned the BillWhittle.com members into a family. And we really do react like a family, and we disagree about things, and sometimes we disagree about serious things, but it never gets disrespectful, and it's always interesting and lively. And to say that this has been a consolation understates the case. If I had to make a decision between the two of these 2 things, I find my new family just not only more enjoyable to be with, but just far better educated, kinder, more competent, more humble, and needless to say, we'd like to have more people inside that family. But what Scott has done to bring out this kind of latent qualities, nothing short of amazing, and I am deeply indebted to him.
Well, on a business basis, certainly we need your membership dollars in order to fund this enterprise. But on a personal basis, we need you. The new Bill Whittle website, which as we record this, has not yet been linked up with the BillWhittle.com address, but you can get to it if you go to BillWhittle.com and click that
or at the link listed below.
That's right, or at the link listed below. But in the very near future, it will be the official BillWhittle.com website. There are already hundreds of members over there who are interacting in this way, and they need you. We need you,
and you need them.
Yeah, and that's hard for us to admit. It's hard for an individual to admit I need somebody else, but we do. We need each other, and so we hope that you join that group and become an active part of it by going to BillWhittle.com. Click that Become a Member link. For Bill Whittle, I'm Scott Ott. Thanks to the members who are really making this a lot more than possible. They're making it great.
Well said.